everybody. Live at Drew's house, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Welcome back. Another edition. A very fine day here in Newburyport. It's not too cold, although there's a feeling of the chill in the air. Hope you're all doing well out there. Our guest today, I looked back, and it's been almost about a year since you were first on. Mike Perrotta from the Newburyport Tennis Club, the manager over there. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for inviting me back. I appreciate it.
You look great. You made it through tennis season okay?
Yes, outdoor season was hot summer, as we all remember, but back to indoor tennis, so we're excited.
I know. It's like never not tennis season for you, right, with an indoor club?
Absolutely correct. But there is some indoor clubs that don't have access to either outdoor courts, or they're so busy during the indoor season that when you get to the outdoor season, there's just so little that it's different.
Sure. All right. Fair enough. Couple things. I want to start by saying I have now played over there this winter. I guess last winter, but I love your place. It's beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You guys do a great job over there. Great people. Everything about it.
Yes. The ownership that purchased it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Dr. Darrell Colden, his wife Kristen Tolman, Gary Gaspin, and Laura Goldberg have done a phenomenal job of just redoing the place.
Yeah.
Roof, ceiling, court resurfacing, lounge area, everything is just, it is as pretty and nice a club as you'll find in the North Shore. I would put it up against any of them.
Yeah, people from outside that I've brought over there, that is the one thing they mention is like, it's, and I'm sure there's been other places that are great too, but like the people there make it. Like it's just a very friendly, welcoming act, because some tennis places can be a little, you get that judgy feel a little bit,
It can be. If you've never been to a tennis club before,
sure,
it's a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
It's members only usually.
Yeah.
And what happens is, it can be a little snooty to some people.
Yeah.
We are not that.
We're
very embracing. Everybody's there, has passion for tennis, passion for the club, passion for Newburyport. So it's been a blessing with the new ownership, but at the same point, we have very good staff that love being at Newburyport Tennis Club.
There you go. So if you're thinking about taking your game indoors, don't be scared. Like it's a real thing. Don't go play.
Absolutely.
And it's a good thing to keep sharp during the season too. And let's talk about the game too, because tennis is like, I'm from Danvers.
Yes.
My courts at the high school there, we got 5 beautiful courts in Danvers High School, packed all the time these days, it seems like. Is the game like exploding a little bit right now?
I think there was a second resurgence after what you saw in 70s, then 80s and 90s, all these things that have happened over the years, which has been based on the beginning of the sport being on TV, high-level players, Connors, McEnroe, Borg,
sure,
then that Sampras Agassi thing, and then we've got to the end of the Federer and Nadal, now Djokovic and other players, Alcaraz, Sinner, etc. Now, unfortunately, for good or for bad, after the pandemic, the COVID, a lot of people needed something to do.
Yeah.
And a lot of fitness clubs weren't allowed to do things. And there were a lot of places that either closed or couldn't help people, do something athletically.
Yeah.
And I think with tennis, because it's basically, from day one, has always been that social distance sport.
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people, it became like, let's try this.
Yeah, people felt comfortable going out.
They did.
Yeah.
And then once they started playing, they're like, oh my God, I like this.
Right.
So then even after near the end of COVID and stuff, what has happened is a lot of people stuck with it. In particular, young people who maybe couldn't go play lacrosse or soccer or ice skating or something like that, maybe just it wasn't working out, play tennis, and that has been huge for us.
No doubt. And I do find too, me, I work with some kids that play tennis, pretty much up until we went even last week. We kind of probably going to stop around now, but we went out there last week and played, and I'll ask the kid, like, you want to keep pushing it into the cold, and they seem to really love it. These are like middle school kids, young middle school, and I think I don't know if you find this. Once you start getting it's almost like if you learn a couple chords on guitar and you can play a song, then you start to like it more. It becomes fun. You start getting some tennis strokes down. You can actually have a rally. Then it becomes really fun. Then you learn the scoring maybe, and then it becomes really fun.
But even if you didn't learn the scoring, if you get the ball back and forth and keep score of your own way,
sure,
you're competing.
Yeah,
I think that's the big difference when kids start to like any game.
Yeah,
then it actually feels more real.
No doubt. It's funny too because we do mention the scoring. Like it is there. There's reasons why it is, but it is a little odd. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4 in tennis. It's when you get into the love and the games and sets and try to explain how a tennis match is scored,
absolutely,
it does lose kids. It's funny. Once they do get that, like even my dad, right? My dad's a big sports fan. He watched me play tennis in high school. Somehow watched all these matches and never really learned tennis scoring. Like I'm like, Dad, how did you watch all those matches? Like I don't know. Yeah, I could tell when you were happy when you. I was like, it's bizarre to me. But even like adults struggle with it. But once they learn, it's like they are more engaged. Like I get it now. I get why that was such a pressure-packed moment.
Yes, and I've told people before, and I've been very honest about this. Think of tennis scoring as 1, 2, 3, 4, but they named the points something different.
Yeah, sure.
And you got to win by 2. And if you do that, it can make your life a little bit easier. But it's kind of cool that it's a little different than other things.
And it's not that hard. It's just you got to focus a little bit, right? I got to tell you, we were just actually, as I was waiting for you here, I had a little half-hour downtime here with the team. I was watching the Next Gen. Have you seen any of this?
I have not.
Okay, so the Tennis Channel's playing it today, and it's one of those. They got the courts without the doubles alleys.
Oh, that's very cool.
It is, although it's a little jarring for me. I'm not sure. I don't think I like it, actually, to be honest with you. I like seeing the doubles alleys.
I do too.
It's a singles match, so you don't need them. But I like the dynamics of the full court. I don't know.
I'm a big believer in that as well. Recently driving down on 95, heading back toward Peabody.
Yeah.
Some of the lines weren't painted, so you were like in the big double lane. Very confusing. There's an episode of Seinfeld there.
Yeah.
And I just felt like I like all the lines. And I would be like anybody if I'm watching a tennis match.
Yeah.
And there's no double alleys. I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It would freak me out a little bit.
It does. And I was actually saying this to one of my uncles who was a big tennis player, and he goes, "Have you ever played on one?" And I thought about it. I go, "I haven't."
No.
And he goes, "Some of the clubs I play at, because of spacing, they did it." And he goes, "It's weird to play on."
Yeah, it is. It looks thinner. It has that look of, oh, this is what it normally looks like. Now it's like this, and what's missing? I'm a little off balance now.
Anyway, yeah. Well, I was watching those kids. They're not kids, they're pros, but they're young pros. And I was watching that, and I'm thinking the game's in a good place here. There is talent at the highest level. I mean, people are worried about the big three being done, and what's that going to do for tennis? The game's in a great spot with all these guys coming up.
Absolutely, Alcaraz, Sinner. We got all these other young players. You still have Djokovic playing.
Yeah, he's unbelievable, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And it just when you have a body like that and in shape like he is every day. Right now we're probably set for another 3 to 5 years for sure. Sure. And then see what happens after that.
He gives every 36-year-old hope as I sit here.
Sure
a 36-year-old.
Sure does.
He is amazing, man. It's funny. I don't know if you feel this way. So for me, he was always my third of the big three.
He was.
I was always first. I always say Federer. Federer made me get into tennis. Rafa made me love it. Yes. That was what I used to say about those two. And Djokovic was always kind of the third. He kind of. At times he rubbed me the wrong way with, a little bit more brash out there.
Yes, he was.
But as, whatever it's been, the last few years, as the other two have kind of gone away a little bit, one retired, one's been hurt, I've grown to really like Novak a lot more. He just is honest. He handles questions very directly.
I think during the pandemic, with him being not allowed to play in certain tournaments and having a certain stand, whether you believed it or not, I think people felt a little badly for him that he wasn't allowed to play.
I did.
And I think geez, that's a little unfair. There isn't something that could be worked out.
Yeah.
And then when he comes back and he starts beating Alcaraz, who is already almost reigned the next guy.
Yeah.
And won some majors, I think for a lot of people. I think they said, oh, my God, I like him more than I thought I did.
No doubt. And I will not go politics at all. I'm a vaccinated COVID person and all that. But I will say, I don't think anybody can be in his shoes and monitoring what he's put in his body since he was young.
100%.
And is arguably one of the healthiest people in the world right now, an
Absolutely.
athlete at the top of his game. I completely understand. I just get it. I don't think anybody can put themselves in those shoes.
Correct. I think that's what people got. They got it.
Yeah.
They understood what the deal was, and they think...
Especially after the fact. Now that maybe time has kind of gone on a little bit.
I agree.
So anyway, there you go. That's just my feeling. I guess I always say it's the elephant in the room. Now it's like the elephant literally outside our window. There's pickleball happening on the basketball courts outside. Pickleball is everywhere, my friend, and I know it's at the Newburyport Tennis Club as well. What's the status of pickleball these days?
So right now we're the only place around that has a dedicated pickleball-only outdoor surface.
Okay.
We have 4 courts. There was 3. We added 1. There are places that have either lines on tennis courts or refurbished, but we have 4 outdoor pickleball, and we do have indoor pickleball with the taped lines.
Yep.
And that's what we've been doing for probably about the last year or so. It's a very popular sport. People like it. We have people that do tennis and pickleball, obviously just tennis because it's a tennis club, and we're starting to get more of just the pickleball-only player now, too.
Okay. Yeah, have you had, I have to ask, you see these stories on the news. There have been legit clashes between tennis people in communities, and whether it be neighborhoods or the pickleball people coming on it's a space issue more than anything, right?
Yes, and I think some of it's space, but I think the pickleball sound is what drove a lot of areas.
It's loud.
As a beef, it's louder.
Yeah.
And some families that were living in houses that were really close to courts, hearing that pop, 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 pop sound really drove some people crazy.
And
created a beef.
You and I go to play tennis, right? If we're going to play each other, it's always been you and I can kind of go out there, and it's you and I on this court too.
Yep.
And if you notice pickleball players, it's usually that's not the case. You usually
No.
got two nets on each side of the tennis net, and then it's usually two, you're playing doubles, and then there's usually a pocket of people watching too.
You are right. I think when it first started, at least in this world around here, there'd be like 30 people all showing up to play on 1, 2, or 3 courts.
Yeah.
And it was a little louder and very social. And then, like you said, the sound of the ball. So I think it was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
And then for some people, if they were combining tennis court or basketball or pickleball, and you were sharing, it was difficult to share equally.
Right.
And I think it created some problems.
Yeah. I mean, but I do think, yes, there's the sound, there's a lot of people, but I do think in essence, if it comes down to it, I think if pickleball players have pickleball courts to go to,
yes,
that's probably the best case scenario.
Oh, I think it's better for everybody. It's better for anybody, especially the pickleballer, to not have to share something else and feel like a second-class citizen.
Yes.
There should be tennis courts, there should be pickleball courts, there should be basketball courts.
And I think, pickleball, it's still, I know it's been around for a while, but it's the explosion is, we're in it right now. So, I know the mayor of Newburyport's talked about,
Absolutely.
I'm trying desperately to find a place to put 4 courts. Like, it's hard.
It is hard. And I think sometimes when there's a growth like that, everybody has to be patient and let it all catch up.
Yeah. We'll be okay.
Oh, yes, we will be okay indeed.
It's an interesting note, too. So I noticed early on because we, like those same kids that I talked about earlier that I work with, they happen to be in Topsfield, but almost every time we go now, there is a pickleball session going on at the court next to us.
Yes.
Which is fine. We only need, our space.
One court and they can have their space.
They can have there. It's fine. The kids I noticed at the beginning were a little bit, it looks exciting, the pickleball, a little distracted by it. There's the noise. It's quick action. It's, back and forth, doubles, slap fives, all that stuff. And you almost have to kind of tell them a little bit, like, I know it looks like fun, but like, stay with the tennis. You're going to appreciate this as you get older. Like, you'll like learning this game. I know it's a little hard, get your form right.
Well, it is harder. That's the problem sometimes.
Harder. Yeah. But once you get it, and it's amazing. Like, kids are great when they like really stick with something, like when they listen to you and stick with it. Because after we spend a lot of time, I don't even notice them looking at the pickleballers anymore. They're like,
because they've gotten a little bit better and they're playing their own points. I think pickleball for somebody who's never played it, and you play it very quickly, in a short period of time, you can get some basic fundamentals.
Sure.
I think a sport like tennis or golf can be very difficult to learn immediately and be good at it.
Yeah.
It takes time. Pickleball, you can play right away and struggle with it.
Yeah.
Pickleball, you can play right away and not struggle with it.
Do you play pickleball?
I do not.
I don't. Have you ever played? I've never played.
Oh, I've played many, many years ago, but I have not played, right now.
I know it's people ask me, you don't do the pickleball thing, and I'm like, well, I don't. I have nothing against pickleball. It's just I play tennis. It's a time thing. Like, if I'm gonna go out and play, I'm gonna play tennis. I just don't. I wouldn't play pickleball. Maybe someday.
Probably. You'll do it one day. We'll all bite that bullet one day.
I think I got the rules, although I haven't. I don't know. I just haven't played too much. My guys.
I just need 1 minute.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Excuse me, Joe. We can run for 1 second. Actually, we can take a quick break, babe. Too. Why don't we do a quick commercial? We'll come right back. This is what we do with a live show, which I always forget. Live at Drew's House, Joppa Afternoon Drive. Keep it here. We'll be right back. More with Mike Perrotta, Newburyport Tennis Club. All right, back with Mike Perrotta, Newburyport Tennis Club, the manager over there. But you go way back, though, Mike. Let's talk about your, because you coached, if I remember correctly.
I coached high school tennis, then college tennis. I came to the North Shore and was teaching at some clubs.
Yeah.
And then ended up in Newburyport, I believe, in 2005.
Gotcha. So you're managing the place.
I am managing solely now. At one point, I was teaching and managing. Now I'm just managing.
Okay. So what is that? What are the daily tasks? Is it kind of the stuff you never dreamed you'd been doing? Or?
When I was younger, I never thought I'd be a manager of something. My father always said, "Oh, one day you're going to be a manager of something." I don't know what he said. He didn't say. Me, I wanted to be standing up feeding balls.
Yeah.
But you have to. There's a lot of things to do. You have a staff to manage and work with. You have all the things you have to deal with in a business. Some of the things you never thought you'd be doing is, the bill pay to pay your bills, for the club and everything like that. I think the biggest thing is dealing with everybody to make sure it all runs smoothly, so any member that comes in has a good experience.
Okay. And it seems like everybody that goes in there is happy. So you're doing a good job at that. Do you miss the one-on-one teaching?
Sometimes. There's times when I look through the window and I look and it doesn't affect me at all. Yeah. And then every once in a while you'll see either a group of teenagers or some people playing that maybe were new to the game. Yeah. And they're like, I wish that was one of mine or something like that. So occasionally it does affect you. Yeah. Is it just generally like, players got potential, I wish they'd work on this? Or is it just kind of like,
I miss the reward of just.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
The reward. It's not whether they're a monster player.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah.
it's, oh my God, I wish I was,
The next Alcaraz.
Exactly. I think in my case, it's like a group of kids that you saw or adults that were here and got to hear, and like, oh man, I wish that was something I was part of.
Yeah. Do you, there's so much talk right now, especially at the high school level. We get a lot of high school kids in, and that talk about like multiple sports. And tennis, of course, is notorious for a lot of tennis stars grow up and they're tennis players, especially in other countries, like the Alcaraz of the world, for instance, top player, Carlos Alcaraz, for those who have somehow not known his name, camps all his life. It was born to be a tennis player and played tennis. I'm not sure he'd ever shot a basketball, I'm not sure about that, but who knows? What is your take on kids playing multiple sports versus being a one sport?
I think it's good for them. I think it's good to just stay well-rounded and then let something happen rather than force yourself to just do the one sport. I think if you do it that way, when you finally do choose a sport, it's a better choice than at a younger age, just trying to, oh my God, my mom and dad want me to do this.
Yeah.
Do everything and then see what happens.
So many times they end up hating it, right? When mom and dad force them.
Yeah, you can get burnt out from it too, because that's the only thing you've done.
Yeah. That being said, tennis is the one I told you last time I think you were here. My grandmother played into her 80s. Like it is
fantastic.
Which is a hard, not the easiest thing to do. I always think maybe pickleball would have been nice for like her.
I think it is for a lot of older people who play tennis and injuries. It stopped you from playing tennis.
Right.
Now that 80-year-old person can still do something else.
Because a lot of that, I know from my grandmother, it wasn't necessarily about playing competitive points. A lot of times it was about seeing her friends.
Yes,
and
going out there and doing that thing with your friends. In that case, it was tennis. Now it might be pickleball in a few more years.
And then, when I always say, I remember when she stopped going to the tennis club, I was in Danvers or Beverly at the time. I remember thinking to myself, she kind of went down after that. Like it was.
Once you miss that and you're not doing that, it can take something out of your life.
So maybe pickleball would have been like that. That's another great thing about pickleball. Anything, I'm for anybody getting out and playing. So it's great. I don't know. It's not. I don't think you like what's that, when you have those two worlds colliding, the pickleball and tennis thing at the club. Is it like how do you manage the tennis kids that are like kind of drawn to it, like I was talking about earlier?
We haven't seen as much as that as I thought we'd say, but I think that's right around the corner. Where you're going to see the tennis kid or potential tennis kid wanting to play pickleball either as well or instead of, and we are not quite there yet.
Tennis pros are doing it.
Tennis pros are doing it. Absolutely.
It's crazy, Tennis, a lot of them are kind of on the back end.
Correct, but they're still doing it, and even some people may be using it.
Me. I'm playing music. Look at that. Go. John Lennon playing.
There it is.
I've hit a strange button.
But I think some people may be doing it that are professional athletes because there may be a benefit to it either from a quickness standpoint or a different kind of shot. And as you said, back end players too. I think what you're going to find out is that a lot of people from the tennis world that maybe were on the cusp of not being super good might go to the pickleball route because maybe that's where they can find their stardom.
Gotcha. Again, we're joined here by Mike Perrotta, Newburyport Tennis Club. I like talking about the club a lot with him, but in Newburyport tennis in general. But I also like talking about the game a little bit. What is your take? Here's a bigger issue, a little bit inside baseball, but the challenger level of tennis, which is, for those who don't know, it's kind of like the minor leagues.
That's correct.
But they're pros. And that's how you get up. A lot of, I remember when Andy Murray was making his comeback.
That's right.
He was playing these little halls, challenger tennis. That's how you work your way in. There's top players that have all worked their way through challenger tennis, and eventually you get to these bigger events. But I keep hearing more and more stories about how you got these top echelon of players getting paid all the money, that have the endorsement deals, that are living the good life. But then it's just like a drop-off.
It is.
And it is a hard grind to be a pro tennis player.
There's been articles, there have been documentaries, there's been all kinds of things saying the number might be 100 or 120, whatever is top, that top number.
It's always a huge deal to break the top 100.
That's correct. And once you're below that, and the grind of what you have to do when you're playing mixed doubles and doubles and trying and challenger events, and you're just hoping to qualify, it's tough. And you have to have a real love of the game. Now, my guess is the comparison would have been 20, 30 years ago for golfers that were just trying to play in that event, and you got to qualify on a Monday and shoot a certain score and beat a certain number of people, and then maybe you could play with the big guys on Thursday. I think it's harder for the tennis player.
Yeah, I'm hearing stories about guys sleeping on friends' floors and trying to get networks of friends where you can stay in certain cities. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Wow. And then, of course, playing the matches, those become really pressure matches.
If you don't win, you don't advance. If you're Djokovic, you don't win, there's the next tournament. Sure. You're fine. If one of those guys don't win, you might not be able to pay your bills.
It was interesting to see. I remember hearing Jess Pegula after one of her matches this year, and somebody asked her a similar question, and she said, a challenger level is almost harder than being where I am right now.
I think it is.
Like, I play tougher matches right now, arguably, maybe by a little bit, but like those challenger matches are hard too.
Yes.
And all the stuff that comes with it.
Correct.
She's like, here a lot of times you're in the top. She's a top player. You're in the top 20. Maybe somebody's out with injury. Suddenly you got to walk through and you got to on to the next round.
It's a different pressure point.
Yeah.
It's the old Lee Trevino comment many, many years ago. Playing a $2 Nassau with no money in my pocket is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And I don't think people get that sometimes when you're playing in that match and what you need to go to your next event and, as you said, hotel room perhaps, or staying on a friend's floor. If you are playing and you need that to get to the next step and you don't win it, it's a long week or 10 days.
Well, that's a great question for you, a former coach. I mean, you've coached college kids, you've coached at high levels. That's the argument too. Like, a lot of these players can't afford coaches,
Absolutely correct.
So a lot of the top, so there were rules for a long time. Tennis was always the game where you got to be out there and figure it out by yourself.
That's right.
Right, no coaching. And we saw oddness. Remember, I think it was Tsitsipas at the U.S. Open.
Yes.
They were penalizing him for his dad yelling at him, his coach, and so it gets weird. But that is the argument, because not everybody can afford coaches. Like, we all need to keep it on a level playing field.
I'd like to see less coaching.
I was going to ask. Yeah. So what's the deal?
Less coaching is better than more coaching, because if you get a whole crew in some box and they're yelling or talking or whatever it is, I think it takes away from the game. Let these individuals play against each other without the back and forth.
I think they found an okay balance, though, don't you?
A little bit.
Where it's just because for a while, I remember that time they tried actually having coaches come down and talk to you.
Yeah,
I hated that.
No one liked that.
Legit strategy being talked. I don't like that. But if you're down the end of the court, I don't like the idea of hiding somebody in a tunnel listening to what they're talking about.
Yes.
Just if they're yelling at each other,
Yes.
I think it's naturally going to happen.
Yes.
I know that's tough to police, but in general, I'm with you. Yes, this is the sport where it's you versus the opponent. You got to figure it out on your own.
Got it.
All right, so we got that figured out. There you go. Tennis world. We
good.
figured it out here tonight. What are your thoughts on the whole current state of tennis? What would you like to see changed? What's give me your 2023 going into 2024 thoughts?
I'm happy with the state of tennis. I mean, I like what we're seeing on TV, tournaments, what people getting paid.
More TV coverage would be okay for
I would have no problem with that.
Yeah.
I think it's real tough for tennis in regards to your major season is that January, Australian Open. Then you got to wait all the way to May. Then it's boom, boom, boom. Very quickly you got French turning into Wimbledon, turning to U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And I know the other day Martina Navratilova was saying that she thought the season was too long, but there's not a lot of stuff after September. There's a couple of Laver Cup, there's some ATP, finals and stuff like that. But there's not a lot after September.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the schedule right now. If the players need time off, they're welcome, to take the time off.
Yeah.
I think if I wanted to change anything, I wish the majors were spread out better, maybe.
Well, it's hard to do with Australia, though.
That's correct.
Because it's that's in January, and that's pretty much got to be. It's their summer.
That's correct.
And so if you're going to, and Australia deserves a major. That's huge.
Oh, absolutely.
Tennis. So it's if you're going to, and that's the kickoff really to the major season.
Correct.
So it's and this is that's right around the corner, and this is the tennis off season. So it is not that much of an off season.
It is not.
And for some players, I mean, Djokovic is still hitting last week in the Davis Cup.
Davis Cup. So maybe it should be a year-round sport, but as an individual, you do get to pick and choose when to play.
Sure.
So you do have, similar to another individual sport like golf.
Yeah.
You don't have to play every week if you don't want to.
Yeah, and Djokovic has mastered that where he...
Yes, he has. He's picked the right spots.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He cares about majors and his country right now, I think is what he said.
Absolutely.
So he'll be fun to watch here in the new year. Any predictions for the new year? Any names?
I think if I had to make a prediction, I'd like Djokovic to win 2 or 3 majors this year.
I think so, too.
I just had that vibe all along. Nothing against Alcaraz. I'm not putting down another player. But if he wins Australia like he seems to do, and then he gets himself that time off, I may be critical of it, but he's not, to play in the French and play on the clay court game, which he's very, very good at, so is Alcaraz. All of a sudden, you look up, and someone said at the end of the year, I see Djokovic in 2 or 3 finals for sure.
Yeah.
The other is semi, and you're going to win Wimbledon, I think, and one other. It could be a heck of a year if he can put it together. Yeah,
I mean, you've been watching tennis longer than me. Is there anybody you've seen, I've never seen anybody go into lockdown mode like he does.
No, I've never seen that before.
I mean, he will just play these points until you make the mistake in the big moments.
The only person that I would say would be in that category, we could say, a very difficult player to play against was Nadal. Because every single point felt like it was a little battle to win that point, and he wouldn't let you win easy. He didn't give away too many points.
Yeah.
And I think he was very difficult to play against. I think playing against Djokovic is now, him and Alcaraz are the 2 toughest people to play against.
Yeah. I mean, the debate too. You keep hearing with Djokovic kind of taking over the numbers that there's really no argument for him being the greatest.
He's the greatest of all time,
which I agree with and creative. But it is a little bit more complicated than
of
just
course.
The Federer's old. Federer does have 4 years on Djokovic.
Yes.
But there were different rivalries. Federer reminds people that with Nadal, I remember Rafa coming up through the challengers. I was watching him down there as I was winning majors. It's people forget those age differences. And
I do think they forget that. And only when Federer came up with Nadal did we start counting majors.
Yeah.
At one point, it was Sampras, before that Laver, and everybody talked about how good Borg and McEnroe, who retired earlier. Federer was the first guy where we're counting majors, and he's playing into his late 30s.
Yeah.
So it has changed a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, if you look up and say, Djokovic did play, Nadal beat him most of the time, or even.
Yeah.
Federer beat most of the time, or even. Now he's still playing, and he's winning more majors. At the end, there's a chance he's pushing 27, 28.
Think about that.
Never thought that could happen.
Decades ago. It's incredible, right?
No, but we never saw players like this that thrive so well that were winning 2 or 3 majors a year.
Yeah.
Nadal had a 3-major year, Federer's had a 3-major year, Djokovic's had a 3-major year. Once you're doing that and you're winning like that and then healthy and playing for years, it's amazing how quickly you can go from 3, 5, 13.
Agreed. Yeah, it's crazy. Put your coaching hat back on for a second, Mike Perrotta. What's the thing from the big three you think that you're telling a high school kid right now, freshman in high school, I'm pretty decent, how do I become a good match player?
Be who you are, because each of them were different. Federer, as we all knew, was great on grass and could play U.S. Open, some clay, some Australia. Djokovic could play on any surface and was very difficult to play against, and was maybe one of those best physical specimens we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Nadal fought every single point like it was his last. So you had 3 different people playing different that all thrived on different courts. Federer, more grass wins, more Wimbledon wins. Nadal, more clay wins, more French Open wins. Djokovic, more Australia, which is a hard court surface. So it's like 3. If you're a young player playing today and you want to do well, be yourself, don't copy anybody else, and thrive for what you do best.
It's the great thing about the sport, isn't it?
It is.
3 guys, amazing, the best at what they do, and they all do it differently.
Yes, absolutely.
It's incredible. One thing I try to get across too. This is I know every young kid has had to deal with this with tennis growing up, but it's like when you start playing matches. Same thing in golf. I remember telling people this playing golf. You can't let one golf shot affect the next one.
You can't.
And you got to move on in tennis points too. Even pros. I was watching that match before today. The next gen. These are top young pros that are out there playing. And I watched kid Mickelson, Alex Mickelson, playing today. Missed a volley at the net. Love 15. Quickly love 40. He just couldn't. You could tell he burned him.
And that might be that big difference between 120 and 20.
Yeah,
is that
exactly,
mental game,
right?
or your age, or getting used to playing matches at a certain level so that you can thrive. And the one thing we've seen Federer, Nadal, Djokovic all do is being able to put that either defeat or bad point or bad set or bad game and then reload.
Yeah. It's almost like every sport too, right? If you think about it, right? Belichick, we're on to Indianapolis. We don't look past anything. It's
you have to.
One play at a time.
The best professionals do it the best.
No doubt. That's good stuff. Again, we're joined here by Mike Perrotta, Newburyport Tennis Club. He's the manager over there. It is beautiful. What's anything new for the new year? You guys always trying to rethink new ideas over there?
We do. We come up with things with more pickleball coming indoors, and we run a lot of adult clinics, all levels, especially new people that want to learn the sport or just find out about it.
They go to the website to find.
Go to the website, come to the club, walk in. We'll give you a tour. We'll give you a complimentary court or lesson or something that we can do to kind of motivate you to come in and not feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
And then we kind of go with what people want to do. We've been running more of junior camps during holiday weeks.
Oh, cool.
So we've been doing more of that to get some of the kids that maybe can't do during the week or want extra tennis, doing that. And we've also done some things for kids, which is the complimentary rally time on Saturday, which is any Saturday, any kid that wants to play tennis, we've blocked some time between 2 and 4:30. Give us a call, and you can just jump in with some other kids and play, no fees.
Oh, no kidding. I didn't know you did that.
Yes, we started that last year. We charge a membership, of course, and people do pay for some classes. But we wanted to do something that might be fun for them, because during a class, there's a lot of kids out there. You might not get a chance to play as many live points as you would like. So we then dedicated some time on Saturday for this rally time for any age. Pretty much if you're a 7 or 8 year old playing at a younger level playing in the compression orange ball or green ball, or if you're a high school, prep player, HSPP as we call it, and you're coming in pounding balls, we've given you some time on Saturdays to come in free, complimentary on us, and play some sets and some games.
That's awesome. We'll give back to the community sort of thing. I know it's a great community here. I mean, that's just, you mentioned high schoolers.
Yes.
Got some good tennis kids playing high school, Newburyport High School over there.
The
Huh?
girls 2 years in a row winning state championship.
Unbelievable.
Boys getting, building up to that, to hopefully one day being able to compete like that as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Sure, we had the athletic director here, Kyle Hodgson, and
Yes.
he made sure to, I think he had seen you maybe from a year ago on, and he goes, by the way, they are fantastic to us because they have some court issues. I don't know if you know about those here in Newburyport.
Yes.
The 4 courts, it's a little bit of a, it's a problem when you have 5 scheduled matches.
And I think that's the next thing if people wanted to just think about tennis. In most communities, when you have an indoor area, whether it's just tennis or other things there, and you have 4 courts or 6 courts, usually there's outdoor courts that are almost multiplied by that 3, 4, or 5 times. You go to some cities and you got 25, 30 outdoor courts. In Newburyport, we don't have that many. So we'd like to have more of those, not for the indoor reason of building a business, but for so people get the opportunity to play tennis. And that's tough when you go to Atkinson. There's only 3, or Knock, dealing with a few courts over there. The city could use more courts. It would be great.
Yeah, well, it's great that you guys open up and help out the high school teams.
We do.
Too,
we try to help the teams out, and we do try to help the people that are playing high school tennis when they need courts.
I don't know if you remember, when I first started doing this show, and as you know, I'm a tennis guy, I came here, and I heard there was no boys team.
There was for a few years. There wasn't a boys team.
It was no boys tennis team in Newburyport, and my mind was blown. I couldn't even get my head around it.
And I think that goes back to not having. It's no one's fault. Things happen. But if you go to like a school in North Andover, they got 8 or 10 or 12 courts behind the school or around there. So when you're a kid riding your bike, you went and played this sport, and then eventually you maybe became good and you joined a team. There was no places for kids to go. I will say this, the other thing that I think we've done well at Newburyport Tennis Club is the partnership with Youth Services of Newburyport to let kids participate doing those half-day camps during the summer.
Nice.
Which is not just a feeder system for the indoor club, but it gives these kids an opportunity to play tennis, and then maybe that can help for the future. So these young people, if they wanted to, play high school tennis.
We'll talk about maybe it's partially you guys, it's partially the explosion of the game, but all those factors together. I talking to a couple of boys tennis kids, they got like 30 guys coming out last time.
I know. It's finally
I think that made everybody feel pretty good.
I think everybody could take something there. The high school for pushing it. Newburyport Tennis Club for allowing some of these kids to play. Youth Services for running the summer camp. All of that stuff builds together, as well as talking about it. Where people start saying, let's help this program that maybe needs a little push.
And as far as it being a visual, like when I make fun of the Tennis Channel sometimes because I sometimes think they don't give the best coverage. Play as many live matches as possible.
Too many replays.
Too many replays because I'm like, when I was like, I would, if I'm stumbling through, that's how I started liking tennis. I just stopped one day on television. And I think I saw, I know I said Federer made me love tennis, but it was probably before him that made me get curious. And I just was watching and I was like, oh, I think I like this. And I was never it wasn't the cool sport growing up. I always had a baseball in my hand or a football.
That's correct. Those are the cools.
But I'm watching these guys and I'm like, and women, and I'm like, this is vicious. It's violent. It's but in a good way. Like that looks so competitive. Like I love it.
If you like to compete and you like to compete by yourself, then tennis is the way to go.
Exactly. And it's like that's what made me love it. And I think I think that whole idea of like, well, tennis is not that cool. It's, casual. I think that's gone now.
Oh, it is. I think any sport is cool. Once again, we're not picking on any sport.
Sure.
But anybody who watches gymnastics, ice skating, tennis, golf, and you realize all the time and hours that person put into either win a championship or a medal, you sit there, you do this. That's why we look forward to the Olympics every 4 years. That's why we look forward to majors or Super Bowls or World Series, because the time put in to win that championship, I don't think there's such a thing as an uncool sport.
Yeah, no. The kid, who's the point guy for Duke there, Williams, he's doing broadcasting for ESPN. He was getting on one of the college crowds the other night. He goes, it's quiet here. It's more like a tennis match. The crowd didn't come out. I said, listen, Jay Williams, we got to get you to some more tennis matches, my man. Some of those crowds are some of the most fun matches you'll ever go to at sporting events.
Sporting events are great, and college sporting events are super.
Tell people a little bit about college real quick in the final couple minutes, because I know that's such a thing. Not everybody gets to experience college tennis unless you're in it.
When I played in college tennis and other people played, if you played at the right schools and you were competing either in a conference or a rivalry, people came out to watch those matches. It's just like some schools are big for wrestling, and a bunch of people go and watch, wrestling, basketball, volleyball, hockey, whatever. I played in matches where there were hundreds of people watching.
Pressure.
Yes, I played at Rhode Island College. We played against Providence. We played against URI. We played against other people. And there were people there watching.
Yeah.
Some of them people at the schools, some of them parents, some of them just adults who like tennis.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's other schools, because I've seen matches on TV, Stanford or Georgia. There's a lot of people watching those matches.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty, it's very cool.
You played for?
I played for Rhode Island College.
So is that Providence rival? Or?
Yeah, it was a small rival. Providence was much better than us, but for us, it was a rivalry to have the opportunity to play them.
What's it like playing in front of a few hundred people? Maybe you're 30, 40. You're down break point.
I'll put it this way: you don't want
serve.
You don't want to be looking at the people because they're moving around in it. And usually at tennis matches, there's no seats, so you're kind of up against the fence or on a hill or something. You can get distracted pretty easily. It's a good thing you don't want to be looking at the fans, but it makes you take a breath for a second. It reminds you every once in a while, like, geez, I'm glad I'm not a kicker for the Patriots.
Exactly, right? Deep breath was always my thing on the second serve.
Yes, the breathing exercise.
Slow down.
Yes.
Breath. Go. Yep.
Very helpful.
And don't hit the bad toss.
Yes. Don't hit the bad toss.
Oh, man. Mike Perrotta, I always love talking tennis with you, man. Thank you for all the great work you're doing at the Newburyport Tennis Club. It is a great place to be. I hope people go check it out if they are kind of thinking about it maybe on the line because, like I said, walking in there, just a good, comfortable environment. Great thing for the winter. Nice routine to get into.
It is. We appreciate it. We'd love anybody to come by, try us out. Once again, on us, complimentary, whether it's a lesson, book a court, ball machine, anything you want to do. We really want you to come by because it's important to the community. And if it's something you want to do or try, we'd love to have you.
Always a pleasure, Mike. Appreciate it so much. Thanks for coming in, making some time in your busy schedule, and enjoy this very, well, there's no such thing as an off-season for you. I know that when you're the manager of the Newburyport Tennis
Thank you so much.
Big thanks again to Maeve. We appreciate you, too, doing all the hard work back there. Maeve Power producing the show. Sarah Hayden, the boss, thank you so much. And for all you listening, live show in the books there. Hope you're all doing well. It's a little chilly out there. It's getting dark early. I don't know. I guess we're buckling up for winter. Here we go. Enjoy yourselves. Thanks for listening live at Drew's house. Joppa Afternoon Drive. Peace.